Trump. What I'm here today to argue is that if we are going to talk about Trump as someone who exhibits these three things, we must also address the other side of the argument.
What are they? Trump any better just because
Oh,
Clinton
absolutely not. And
and
I completely agree.
Stirring up content over everything.
But here's the thing.
Shots fired.
It is correct to also bring the argument onto them. So, if
Go on,
we are going
ladies.
to
Go on,
address
get in
this
there, ladies.
on the grounds of sexism, it is important
Go
to
on,
then
ladies, stick
talk
it.
about
Just
the
like
racism that people accuse Donald Trump of, and we must compare that to Bill Clinton. So, if we're going to talk about the racism in the United States, let's talk about the fact that of any president in United States history, Bill Clinton deported the most people of any president ever per capita.
Is that true?
That is true.
Relevant to Trump.
I know. So we're.
Not relevant.
I'm getting to it.
Getting salty.
We're getting to it. So we're talking about the three
Shots
issues
fired.
first. So if we're going to continue down this path, we can also look at the LGBTQ issues of the Clintons. Until 2013, both
Clintons
the
are not in power.
we know. But the argument is that they may be in the
Because in
future.
2020 she will be.
There's a chance that Hillary Clinton, come the next 2020 election, runs again for the presidential election.
Well said,
So,
sir.
in order for us to have a constructive, in order for us to have,
We must know something really interesting because we don't know that's going to happen.
we don't know, but it's a possibility. And because of that, it's important for us to have this dialogue
for
so
you,
that we
mate.
know
Go
both
on.
sides of the conversation. We can, but it's also important because Trump has been in the limelight that we learn to criticize both sides and at least learn both sides of the argument. So, additionally, if we're going to look at Bill Clinton on the terms of being a racist, it is important just to address those initial points of him being a racist and the policy specifically. So in the United States, there's something called mandatory minimums, which come when you commit a crime, you have a minimum sentence for that crime. Bill Clinton specifically raised those for crimes that were associated specifically with African Americans. That includes and was pertaining to specifically the rise of the mandatory minimum for crack cocaine, which was administered by Ronald Reagan in that era, and we know that now
You've been
because
paid by the Russians. So you've been paid by Putin.
Oh, absolutely not, sir. So, if we are to look at that and say that Bill Clinton is squeaky clean, it is also important to look at Hillary Clinton in that same limelight, which is why I'm here today to say that not only is this an issue with Bill Clinton, it is also an issue with Hillary Clinton. And the rationality for that is she was there every step of the way and in fact defended all of his actions at some point in time. And because of that, when you are to look at a candidate like Hillary Clinton, you also need to address the things that Bill Clinton did. You can't really say that you're going to condone or say that the sons of the father affect the son. But the problem is that the son, in this case, Hillary Clinton, was willing to support her husband through this and actually condone his actions. So that is what I came here to talk to today. Thank you very much for your time.
Big up, Mr. Roy. Big it up. Well done.
Build that wall! Build that wall!
On its way. Big up, Florida girl.
Take your time, madam.
I hate these things.
There we go. Now,
Yeah,
there
say
you
something.
You
look good.
You're ready.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm from Florida and my name's Carlisle and I'm here to talk to you about the stigma against mental health.
Mental!
Yes.
Big up mental health.
Yes.
We're all mental here.
You're right. I mean, everyone's unique in their own way, but people with mental health, there's a stigma against it, especially, and I don't know how many of you follow specifically the U.S. in the news and the fact that there's so many school shooters and mass shooters in general. Now, who here is the first thing they hear is the person who did it had mental health issues? Yeah. Do you guys know that actually less than 1% of mass shootings are done by people with mental health issues? Yeah, I
Wow!
know.
Amazing!
And only 3 to 5% of people in total who commit violent crimes have mental health issues. And it goes to the point that they're actually 10 times more likely to be the victims of violent crimes than someone who doesn't have one. And a lot of people actually, in the U.S., 45 million people, and in Britain, around 35 million people have a mental health issue. Generally, the most popular is depression or anxiety or both. But most people aren't willing to speak up and get the help they need. That would make them not just that would make them be more productive and more just happier overall in society because of the stigma against mental health.
That statistic is based on diagnosed mental illness.
You're correct. But the problem is we can't get actual facts because not everyone is willing to come up and and admit and get help for what their problems are. What? Video games don't affect those mentally ill. That's just a thing about, they do actually, it is shown that violent video games actually do contribute to people being more aggressive in general, but that's a worldwide issue.
There was mental illness before Fallout 76.
Yes, there was. And it's only kind of been talked about more recently in negative terms, but this isn't something that should be taken negatively. Actually,
so you're saying we should lock up all sane people, are you? So sane people are responsible for all the shootings, are they? Yeah. And all the crime?
Actually, mainly sane people are, to be honest.
Don't
just
you think there's something
factually.
mentally wrong if people are shooting other people?
In the terms of what people consider mental illness, generally, no, that's more of a humanity's downfall kind of thing, and our aggression and violence and search for power. But that's something that everyone has, not just specific people. It doesn't just affect specific people, though some people obviously can be more keen to it than others, but that's not necessarily a mental issue depending on what it is. A few more things. One in... What? A lot of people think that mentally ill people are more prone to aggression and violence, which is untrue. That they're more apt to hurt others or just not be productive members of society. And though they can not be as productive as most without help, they're generally quite productive. And anything that actually is wrong with them is more internalized than something that affects other people. Like you can look at someone who's majorly depressed or has major anxiety, and it only really affects. Open to sort of treatment and all sorts of things, whereas we Europeans tend to sort of suppress it. That's very true. Yes, we do have there is more. The reason we have more diagnosis in America than here is because we are a little bit more open to counseling, but really, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing. People need to just in general be more open to getting help and talking to people and other people who are the ones being talked to, or even if it's suicide, because you can't really, anxiety, depression, that's not something that's more self-diagnosed, something you more see yourself, but suicide, if someone's talking about death a lot, being very withdrawn and kind of getting their affairs in order, that's something that you can actually worry about and keep an eye out, because 45,000 people in America commit suicide, and it's about a little over 6,000 in Britain, so you guys do definitely have it lower here. But we don't have guns. If we had guns, the figure would probably... but the suicide rate would probably be a lot higher. There's a lot of ways to commit suicide other than guns, so this is not an issue relating to that. Most suicides were men, and most suicides were guns, actually. Men do prefer guns for suicide. Girls generally... That's a suicide of choice, is it? It's a suicide... There's lots... I'm not going to go into the ways to commit suicide, but... Sorry. It's okay. Other than that, also it can a thing to keep out for is the fact that, and understand is the fact that mental illnesses, specifically depression and anxiety, tend to affect people who are younger. They can start manifesting as early as 10 or 12. And what you say to people, especially who are younger, is really important. And actually 1 in 4 teenagers do tend to have depression and or anxiety. 40% of the people who are depressed have anxiety, and 40 million people in general have anxiety.
Isn't that just part of growing up? Isn't that everybody that grows up,
there is a point
everybody that goes through puberty suffers from some sort of form of neurosis?
To a point, yes. But in an actual, as an actual illness versus something that just comes, like that's something that just is related to kind of growing up is different. But the problem that the reason that people who are younger, because they have these problems more, is because a lot of people kind of put stress and worries on them that they don't really need, and they're not understood, and that is a thing that all teenagers suffer from. But the more pressure that you put on like youth and even just everyone else in general, whether it's someone who's older or younger or the same age as you, can really affect them. And I just kind of would like you to realize that just because someone has an illness, doesn't mean they're worse or should be looked down on or any different part of society, and also to just be aware of what you say to people and how you treat them, because that can really affect someone in a negative way. Thank you.
Hey, we got Florida girl. Well done. Okay. Come on, let's have something. Iris, go on next. Hi. Come on,
Okay. All right. What up, you guys? What up? So,
which state you from?
Florida, America. So, in America, I know here football is a big deal, but I'm talking about real football, American football, with concussions, with helmets, with pads.
That's not real sport.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. What are you talking about? You wear pads so you can hit harder and get concussions more frequently and more effectively. I'm not here to talk about pussies today, okay? So, your football here is a very big part of the culture, which I understand. But in America, it's kind of the same thing. And when there's a controversy in football, it kind of divides the country very quickly. And like, it happens pretty often. Not pretty often, but it happens. So, there's a quarterback in football named Colin Kaepernick, and he's actually good. Like, he went to the Super Bowl, which is like the championship. Yeah, it divides the country because everybody watches football. I'll get to that. So in 2016, he took a knee before the game in front of the national anthem, and like the national anthem, he kneeled. Okay. He took a knee, which is like a sign of disrespect.
During the national anthem, he kneeled during the national anthem.
It's not even that big of a deal.
You're kidding me?
Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Because I mean, you kneel, like kneeling is a respectful gesture. Like you kneel in front of the king. You know what I mean? It's kind of, he was just doing it to say that he's not standing for any of the stuff that's going on in America right now.
What stuff?
There's police brutality in America, and that is the point that he's taking a stand behind. And he felt passionately that he had to represent this through his outlet to millions of people on the TV.
So he's a rich, entitled kid at a university earning millions playing football, is that right?
No.
And he's actually protesting about how hard he's got.
He's in the NFL, he's a professional athlete. He's not at the university.
Millions.
Yeah. Earning millions, not anymore. He's since been let go for this protest. Yeah, I mean, you could say good or you could say bad, because he was trying to talk about the issue that's prevalent in America. That this man lost his job for a peaceful protest in America about a real issue that's really happening.
No, if I understand my job, I'd be fine. If any of us understand our job, we'd be fine. But your job is not the place to protest.
His job isn't to stand for the national anthem. His job is to play football in front of people and make money doing that.
Part of his job is also the things around the sport, like good publicity. That's what happens to your sports.
That's not his job. Yeah, that's not his job.
If I put, for example, if I were to eat and I put eat in a bad image, I'd be fired. It's what happens when you have a job. Even when you're in a football stadium, you're representing the football team. And if
you're representing yourself and your values and how you feel about America is right now.
Doing your own time.
On your own time, nobody sees it.
When he's at a football game, playing in the NFL or whatever the football league
There's
is.
Cameras.
Yes,
everybody's watching.
That's not taste. He's working.
Get him finished.
He did that too.
He's only a kid.
Yeah, but everyone watches TV.
If you do it at home, do it at home.
Nah, he could do it at home, but that doesn't really get the point across.
Give him a chance. Tell him what's the national anthem and that got to do with being in a sports team.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, all the sports teams in America, the national anthem has always been a popular trend that holds true, and the football players have always been respectful about it. But this protest actually spawned other protests throughout the NFL with other players and other teams. And it basically got the word moving about what was happening in America, and the state of what was going on. So
what about Nike? Is it true that guy has been hired again as a different protester type ad now?
Yeah, it's a super popular commercial where he actually states his process where you risk something, you sacrifice something in order to get everything. You risk something, if it means sacrificing everything. Yeah.
Yeah, he's using good things. He's using them for good
because it's just he was doing it in the NFL. He was getting paid at that time. He's just getting paid now to represent it completely. He's not as a football player now. He's just an athlete. It was just a form of protest to get the word out, and now he's doing it in a different venue through Nike, who also gets seen by millions of people.
So now he's making a social justice protest for big corporations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is not good.
How does that work?
You know what? That is not good. And you guys will have a nice day, all right?
Well done, well done, well done. Okay. Can we have a snowflake?
Are we only for this group? No other speakers?
Oh, it's a nice cold day. Can we have some more social justice warriors, please?
Some more
Huh? Give us your bag, yeah.
Oh,
the bag, just the bag.
Here.
Yeah, that's great. She needs
food. Whoa! Whoa!
Yes, Kylie.
Take it there quick.
Alright, when many of us go to stores, we just buy things and we don't think about what happens behind all the products that are being bought.
What about the Mexicans?
When we go to the store, we don't realize all the animal testing that goes behind those products. Things that we use every day, like chapstick, like laundry detergent, like things like Vaseline. People use these every day, and many animals are killed. Many animals go through pain while these things happen.
So we should test for Mexicans?
Yeah.
No, we should not test the Mexicans. There are other ways to do this. Animals every day go through pain, and they go through suffering, and they shouldn't be doing that. Animal testing should be banned.
Well, so do Mexicans. They suffer also.
We're not here to talk about Mexicans today. Thank you, though. Animals are just like humans. Animals feel pain. Animals can think like humans. Animals behave like humans, which is why they shouldn't be tested. Animals are in the lab, and they go through research for weeks and weeks at a time, and they're getting poison put into their bodies. They're getting sprayed in their eyeballs.
Yeah, but does non-animal testing work? Is it possible to do it without animal testing?
Yeah, there are other ways to do it.
Are they effective?
They are effective. There are things, they have synthetic human tissue where they test these products on things that look like human tissue. They have human replicated eyeballs. They can spray those things on the eyeballs instead of the animals. These things, I'm sorry?
Why don't they?
They don't, they haven't done it yet because
testing on the real thing is better.
It's been so regulated for so long that they haven't been able to ban it yet. In certain countries like the UK, they did have an Animals Act where they banned it in the 80s, but they're still testing on normal animals like bunnies, like mice, like dogs and cats. They just ban it on monkeys and stuff like that. Like more exotic animals, they're still testing on animals that are in our everyday lives, like your dog, like your cat, like your mouse, kind of thing. But throughout this, they need to make sure it's banned because of the pain that they go through. Animals go through these pain, and they get sprayed in the eye, and they get toxins put into their body for no reason when they have other things like the synthetic tissue and like the replicated human eyeball and stuff like that. They have things like the LD50 that is putting these toxins, they're hanging them up on tubes, and they're getting toxins put in their bodies for weeks and weeks at a time, which eventually will kill them or make them paralyzed or make them go blind, which these things are not good for the animals, and they should be completely taken away.
But if they ban it here, won't they do it, won't they just take it to, I don't know, like some third developing country?
Right, well they need to start doing it in more developed countries first, because if more developed countries start doing this, then the poorer countries will be able to see it.
If they ban it here, won't they actually start, just move the laboratories
to like Pakistan.
There have been things shown that if they start it in countries here, like the UK or like the US, then they'll take these things and they'll take them to the poor countries.
It's more expensive to do on fake.
I'm sorry?
I'm guessing it's cheaper to do it on real animals. And that's part of the reason why they do it.
It is cheaper to do it on real animals, but they're going through so much pain.
The purpose is to help people live longer.
Right, the purpose...
cure maybe diseases that we could die for.
Right.
So where's the...
It is helping humans. That's the thing, it's helping humans. But there are other things, like I said before, like the synthetic human tissue and like the replicated eyeball. There have been tests that 90% of the animals that go through this suffering actually fail in the humans. So mice have been put through tests, and they've actually...
That's the biggest part of scientific proof. That is to make things fail.
Right, but animals don't have the same organs. They don't have the same things that humans do, although they do feel.
And they're synthetic tissue.
But it does, otherwise you wouldn't make the test on it.
But they have other things like the tissue that would help, that are like...
So you talk about 2 points. One is like cosmetics, and one's like medicine.
There are 2 different...
Like, what about medicine? Like if you don't like makeup or something, what about medicine?
Like the medicine, when they, like the 90%, the statistic I just said, like those are the things that was for cancer. They went through the mice to try and cure cancer through the mice, and they did.
Animal testing for medicine, not for cosmetics or things like that, but like just for human medicine. Is that right or wrong?
I mean, both of it's wrong. They shouldn't be. It's all wrong. They're using.
How they test a drug? Well, they have to do it on people. Because they can't do it on animals, they're going to have to do it on people. So it's based on an animal than on a person.
So what you have to evaluate is where is the consequence the lowest.
Okay, I personally think that animal testing is just wrong in general because animals are putting through pain and they're suffering when they shouldn't be. When there are other things. No, I'm not saying they should be tested on humans, but there are other things where they could find better ways to test these things to make them safe for humans. There are better ways to find them instead of making these animals go through suffering.
Now we find a better system. What do? Do we just stop doing all drug testing until we find a better way to test?
I'm just saying that there are better ways to find it, and they should be doing more research in order to find these ways.
So until we find these new ways to test drugs, should we just stop developing a new drug in that interim?
I'm not saying right now stop it immediately, but over time it should be banned and it should be stopped until we find.
Well, you said like 90% of all tests go wrong, right?
That was for cancer. Cancer ended up going wrong.
Let's say that they did that test on humans.
I'm not
what
saying
would have happened then? Like,
I'm not saying it should be tested on humans, but I'm saying animals should not be having to go through pain for our benefit. I get it. We're the most dominant. We're the most dominant people on the planet, but they should not be going. Animals should not be going through this pain just because that we have the better say or they don't have the voice to do it. There should be other ways, like they're looking for, like with the synthetic tissue and all that stuff. That's my point, that they should not be going through it.
It's a very good move from you, but what would you say to those human beings on the planet which are being killed in the name of democracy and prosperity? What would you say to them?
That's not the same thing. I'm talking about cosmetics and the Cancer Day. Overall, I believe that animals should be banned. They should be banned to test it in the labs, and that's it. That's my point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have my badge?
No, I got myself a hoodie.
He's in trouble.
Lord. Well, what would this place be about me?
Hello everybody, my name is Iris, and I am from the United States.
What state?
Florida.
Florida, a little all over, but so, is there any parents in the crowd? Parents? I think, do you guys vaccinate your kids?
Yeah.
Good. People who do not vaccinate their children, unless they have a disease where they cannot be vaccinated at the time, that is told by the doctor, should be charged with child neglect and they should be fined for it.
Silence? My God.
Alright.
You want to put parents in prison if they don't vaccinate their children?
Not prison, but in 2012 in South Wales, there was a measles epidemic. Even though in 1988, the MMR vaccine was created. However, parents still don't vaccinate their children. Why? Some are religious reasons. The HPV vaccine, which are given to daughters at around 12 or 13 years old, they it's to protect them from being, when they're sexually active, from cervical cancer. But however, parents do not think that, and do not want to think about their children being sexually active, and therefore refuse to vaccinate them. But would you rather think of them as dead? There have been multiple cases where children have died from vaccine-preventable illnesses that could have been completely prevented and not happened. And 50,000 people a year die from vaccine-related illnesses that could have been prevented with vaccines.
Does anyone disagree with this?
Not really. I think that's an argument that's been won, isn't it? I mean, by medical science.
This year is the very first year that the epidemic of measles has been out of the UK. There have been cases, and actually a decline. Scientists feel that the decline in vaccines will hurt the herd immunity. The herd immunity is when everyone vaccinates their children. Huh? Yeah, well, the herd immunity helps, but for vaccines like tetanus, that's bacteria found in the environment, they can't be protected by herd immunity. And the selfishness of thinking, oh, because the herd will protect my child, is what's hurting the society and making society not safe for children who's dying because of their parents' decisions.
Are you pro-vaccine?
Yeah.
Good job.
Good job.
It'd be very loud if you were against a vaccine, I think.
Yeah. So why do you think these parents don't want to vaccinate their children then? Because
they don't trust the sources.
In 1998, there was a discredited doctor who put out an article that suggested a link between vaccines and autism. However, this author was discredited by scientists almost immediately. But because in social media, parents get most of their information off social media and make decisions on their children's health by bloggers, by celebrities, and that is the cause that's making us not vaccinate our children. We need to make sure we're looking at the facts and listening to doctors, because in order for all of us to thrive as a society, we have to make choices and make risks to keep us alive. Yes. Well, in Australia they do fines, and that's been working out well for them. But I think that if... What?
The ones that are fine, it's not working out well for them.
No, it is working out well, but people are still not doing it for philosophical reasons. That is another cause. Yes. Yes.
And if they don't pay the fine, they go to prison. So they'd be prisoners of conscience, wouldn't they? Because if they let's say they're Jehovah's Witness, and they say we don't agree with having a vaccination, they don't pay the fine, and then they're sent to prison for that. Is that right?
I think that because, well, is it right that children are dying because of their parents' choices when it could have been completely prevented? When it could have been prevented?
Yeah, but it's a dangerous precedent to suggest that the government is more effective at raising children than the parents. The child belongs to the parents, and the parents have custody of the child. It's not up to the government to intervene in parents.
Well, yeah, it's about the human well-being in the society.
Yeah, and the person responsible for the well-being is the parents, not the government.
But when, okay, let's say a child's being abused, you step in. But like the abuse is not killing the child. But if you don't get a vaccine, you can't die.
That's what I'm saying. Like we already have a definition of like what constitutes abuse, right? But not vaccinating someone, like I appreciate it. Obviously, puts them at more risk in the future. But there's no immediate kind of lack of like reduction of well-being by not vaccinating. So it kind of you can't use that argument in order to.
Well, that's the thing. It's not immediate. It's like put on through time. So like let's say like you don't vaccinate your child, and like 3 years after birth gets measles, dies. It's like. Yes, it's not. You're not hurting it in the now, but you're hurting it in the later.
You know, I appreciate that, but I'm saying, like, why is it the parents are the ones who are best responsible for raising the child and making the decisions, right? It's not the government to dictate that. The government should step in if what's happening is one person gets infected, and because of that, it spreads to the country.
But surely you'll never be able to do that in America, will you? Because
that I do not know, and that is talk to Kylie about that one.
You give a lot of power to the pharmaceutical companies, so I mean, we all become dependent on these vaccines. They're the ones who supply them, gives them power, they make money.
We don't know the long-term effects.
But we do know if you don't vaccinate your children, the long-term effect is death.
Immediate effects, yeah.
So like you will die. Like there's a higher chance of dying, and not only in just children, in adults too, and the elderly. Healthy adults can die from not being vaccinated.
So this starts a precedent, like the government bosses the parents around, so everything they do with their children, the government's going to be bossing them around.
No,
I think play in the park, can't let them.
But if you beat your child with a baseball bat, that's neglect, and they should be punished for that. And you're harming a child, so it's the harming of the child that the government needs to prevent.
Yeah.
So therefore, a vaccination, if a child was to get sick and die, a child is being harmed. So it's the same thing. We step in when someone hits their kid with a baseball bat. We should step in if they're vaccination.
Exactly. Yes.
Are you paying this guy?
What? It's the same. It's harming
No.
the child.
You're talking about child. So sum it up for us then.
No,
I think that parents
lines.
should be charged with child neglect if they do not vaccinate their children. If they can vaccinate, they should, and they should be forced to. Thank you.
Is this like anyone can step up?
I think they're all from a university.
Yeah.
I think they're all university. They're all from Florida. And I'll pick up.
Hey everyone, my name is João. I'm from Brazil, but I go to Florida State University, and I'm here to talk about prostitution.
Yay!
Yeah,
My favorite topic.
What do you guys? Yeah, okay.
Big up
someone that likes it.
prostitution.
Now, what if I tell you that there's ways to make people happier, induce the economy, reduce public spending, and just overall make a work environment just a lot better? I know it sounds too good to be true, but there's a way. Now, imagine a place where
you've come thousands of miles from Brazil to Florida to Britain to start promoting prostitution.
Yes, correct. Now imagine a place where you can go and exchange money for sex. Imagine a place where sex workers
take your brothels back to Brazil.
Have the same rights as every other worker. Have the same rights as every other worker. Where a job is just a job.
Exactly.
Those places do exist, and they work a lot. They work very well. Now I know that prostitution is not illegal here, but brothels are. And why are they? Now, imagine if a brothel could be run the same way as a restaurant, where you go. What?
No.
Oh, sorry. Where a brothel could be run the same way as a restaurant, that you go to a place, you feel safe because they have a permit, you know it's safe. From a worker's perspective, they have to follow some rules, they have rights. Now, a brothel could be run this way. They could get permits, pay taxes, make sure their workers have rights and benefits like everyone else. Make sure their clients are safe. And there's a lot of... Sorry?
A sexual health check.
Exactly. Exactly. Make sure everyone's safe while doing it. Create a safe environment. That's all I'm asking for.
Isn't it demeaning? I mean, doesn't it actually do damage to people that have been prostitutes, to sex workers? Isn't it demeaning for them?
Actually not. No.
Doesn't it damage them?
Regulating prostitution, creating a brothel.
Like if you by yourself, I'm guessing you've got more control over when and where you want to meet people. Whereas if you're working for someone, they're more in charge of what's happening.
Now
you've got to do it when it suits them more.
No.
And who if they want it, because you don't want to turn on to
Now you're thinking about pimps, and what I'm trying to do is something different. Now, if you completely regulate prostitution, you take the pimps out. The government will be in, so people that are trying to take advantage of sex workers would not be able to.
Will the NHS be running these brothels then?
I'm sorry?
I mean, the National Health Service? Will they
No, just business owners, but they could, all I'm saying is they could be run as just regular businesses. Plus, they reduce violence. Just imagine that, let's say a person wants to rape someone. Instead of going and just raping someone on the street, they can go for one of the brothels and just alleviate the sexual urges there. Now, I have an example. From 1980 to 2009, prostitution and brothels were legal in Rhode Island. During that time, rape cases declined by 31%. Plus, it saves the government a lot of money. Every year, it's estimated that government spends $120 million US fighting against prostitution. For every sex arrest, $2,000 is spent. That includes the arrest, court costs, and just keeping that person in jail. Plus, completely legalizing prostitution and regulating it will make sure that the government sees the money that they don't see. Now, in the Netherlands, around $100 million US come from sexual transactions every year. That's a lot of money that the British government does not see. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if this is true or not, but are the brothels in Amsterdam run by pimps or gangs?
Well, some of them are, but a lot of them are actually legal business and they're run by actual good people. And that's why the...
Who are these good people? Are they government?
Just regular business people. Now, so the thing in the Netherlands is, since the government can step in and they regulate everything, they see who is there taking advantage of sexual workers, because they have rights to go up to someone and say, look, I'm having a problem. The same way if you work at a restaurant and you have a problem there, you have someone to go to. You go to the government. That's what I'm asking for. Now, so the argument is you can't stop prostitution. Even if you completely make it illegal, people will not stop doing it.
Yeah.
So why not legalize it and take advantage of it? Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You want the government to be in charge of the vice trade then? Instead of fighting the vice trade, they're running it?
Well, they're running. They're helping it. People are running it. The government is just watching out for them.
Well, I mean, the government is not content or whatever.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're just helping it, helping people run it.
It's going to sort of, reduce society's morals.
Alright.
If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. There's people that actually want to do it and they want to do it safely.
If people would prostitute and do this, then it's going to increase the numbers. Because now it's so really difficult, so people don't really do it. But if you make it so easy, you can just walk in, it's like walking to Starbucks.
Exactly, but
people are going to do it all the time.
It's a job. A job is a job, and it's if it's legal, people that want to do it, people that want to have a regular legal job can do it. But if you don't want to do it, that's fine.
Someone else will do it.
Someone else will do it. Exactly. Thank you.
All right. You're recording?
No.
Oh, so is there a line?
Oh, yeah. It's a group from Florida State.
Shit, okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
Sorry, man. I hate to do the spotlight. I feel bad.
No worries.
Okay, no, we want a woman after a man. Right?
Oh, sorry.
Bella wants to go. Bella wants to go. Come on, Bella. Okay, big up, Bella.
Thank you.
Bella, Florida. Maybe if they didn't have to go.
I'm not from Florida. I'm actually from Minnesota, Midwest.
Oh, big up, Minnesota.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the brand Canada Goose. Raise your hands. Anybody?
Yeah, Canada Goose.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when the shop opened on Street, all the SCWs are outside saying Canada Goose is fair as murder, that kind of shit.
Well, that is actually what I'm here to talk about today.
SCW.
The inhumane harvesting of the fur that goes into the trim.
Those coats are so nice if you tried them.
Yes, actually, that's the appeal, is that they're very warm, they're filled with goose feathers, but they do have a trim that is supposed to insulate around your face.
They're so warm.
And they are warm and they are very appealing, but we do have to look at where this fur is coming from.
It should be people's choice. You don't want to buy, you don't buy. If they want to buy, it's up to them if they want to buy or not.
See, and I'm not asking you today to become a vegan or start raising fists to anybody who eats meat, but I am asking you to open your eyes and look at a larger issue about where this fur is coming from and how it's inhumanely raised. Now, Canada Goose on their website states that they harvest their fur humanely through Canada trappers. Now, 2 organizations have come forward that are mentioned in that statement saying that they actually have no association with Canada Goose and that they can't guarantee that the fur that Canada Goose is taking from them is actually humanely trapped. So Canada Goose also states in their statement that they use state-of-the-art traps to make the trapping quick, and that the trappers come a few hours later and actually shoot the animal to end its suffering. We've actually found that when you shoot the animal, as Canada Goose says they do to make the pain quick and end it, it actually tarnishes the pelt and can't be sent to those manufacturers who produce the coats. Now, Canada Goose is actually being sued right now by campaigners because of their false claims that everything they have is humanely trapped. Now, I'm going to explain a little bit.
Humane is a relative term. I'm sure that you, like, a lot of stuff is inhumane in way of killing, but other people be like, well, that's just, like, killing something is never really going to be, like, perfectly done. But
absolutely, and what I'm coming here today is that we can find alternatives to using instead of real fur, as it does provide great insulation. There are other ways like faux fur faux fur or finding other down
But if
materials.
it's synthetic, won't they use oil and won't they not degrade?
You know, I'm not familiar with the process.
What? Yeah, what? You're actually suggesting that we use a non-ecological version?
This is like compostable. But it's like recycle, like it decomposes.
I'm just here to talk about how.
Let's use plastic. Like lots and lots of plastic.
Which is not as nice. Have you actually like when you get the plastic, it's nowhere near the same. It's the
it's there for 10,000 years.
But would you consider having an animal suffer for hours upon hours instead of getting that?
Just kill it.
Wait, why should we even care?
And that's a great point, because we have larger issues to deal with, like politics and our ecosystem completely failing due to global warming. But I'm just bringing a simpler issue forward because I work with coyotes and foxes back in Minnesota.
I'm sure they make a great coat.
Can I go back to you mentioned that they don't shoot them because it damages the pelt.
Yes.
One bullet in the head, so they don't do that because it would damage that patch of fur?
Exactly.
Okay.
And you'd think that these manufacturers would just cut around or stitch around where that bullet impacted, but for some reason, because those manufacturers say that they want quality pelts, they're not allowed to sell it to Canada Goose. Now, I'm going to explain.
Take it.
The trapping process is actually very inhumane, and this is why,
How about getting fur from animals who have naturally died?
Wait, inhumane? They're not humans though.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you speak louder, please?
Exactly.
Can you speak louder?
Yeah, absolutely. So Canada Goose claims that they, like I was saying, that they trap humanely and that they use state-of-the-art traps. But trappers that sell their pelts to Canada Goose have come forward and said, we cannot guarantee that we use the exact traps that we have stated, and they actually tend to use hind leg traps. So this will get the coyote right at the hip, and it causes spinal cord injuries and internal organ damage, and even the amputation of the leg itself. And the trappers have said, we don't check our traps daily. These animals could be suffering for days, even weeks.
Why don't they use artificial fur?
And that's a great question.
It's nice.
It is not. It doesn't provide the same insulation as real fur does.
And it doesn't degrade either.
Yeah,
it takes like 10,000 years to degrade.
But at the cost of what? The animals suffering for hours, even days, weeks?
But like I said, why should we care? Like if they're suffering, it doesn't affect us. So.
Exactly. It does. And maybe to you it doesn't. But I see animals as equal to us.
But you've got leather boots on.
These are actually vegan leather.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
He just asked, do I see a slug as a human? And I'm not really, I would say all animals or insects or not lower life forms, but
I think my life is more important than Slug's life. That's what I asked. That's what I asked the speaker about.
No, not really.
Guide dogs for blind people. Would you still consider that as animal abuse?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Just because you're not putting that animal through physical pain, and you may think that the argument is, well, you're not letting them have free will, but I do believe that they're being used for a purpose that's not necessarily causing them any pain, and actually gets them to work with you, and they're not being
If we're
necessarily hurt.
hunter-gatherers, I mean, if we're originally hunter-gatherers, if we, surely it's just natural that we use animals and animal products like we have for
Absolutely. And that's a great point.
For hundreds of thousands of years?
But actually, these coyotes that are having their fur harvested, actually, their meat is not being used at all, and there's no meat byproduct that's being used from the
coyote.
Exactly, you wouldn't eat coyote, but you take its skin.
Yeah. How about if you use their fur after they've died naturally? Is that still a problem?
And see, that's actually a great point, because if they die naturally and there's no human interaction where we cause them any pain.
You've got to find them, and then you've
got
to
until they die.
But can I ask, which would you rather save? The life of one lowland gorilla there's only maybe 100 left?
R.I.P. Harambe.
Or would you rather save the life of a human being you've never met?
The gorilla, because there's 7 billion.
Yeah, think people know that. So.
Yeah, but there's a difference. They're not like.
I'm not asking
often
you.
when they're farming animals, they actually keep the population going.
You care for the coyotes. You're looking after coyotes.
Yes, absolutely. And I've actually gotten to personally interact with these coyotes, and I'm sure not everyone in their daily lives gets the opportunity to do this.
They are murdering beasts. They will eat a dog. If you've got a dog, they will eat your dog.
They'll mate with your dog as well.
They'll actually attack your dog, but they won't
yeah.
eat your dog unless it's in a pack.
So they'll just attack it and leave it there and walk away, not even use it. That's even worse.
That's not in our control. That's just their natural instincts. Anyways.
Well, it's my natural instinct to keep warm, nice coat.
There's other ways to do so, though, and that's why I'm suggesting an alternative.
Like you said, there's that same insulation. I would like to be warm and cozy.
What should we do?
Well, for starters, I would say just raise awareness and tell people where their products are coming from, even if they don't necessarily give them up, because they are very expensive jackets, and they do provide a lot of insulation.
But most people know, a lot of people know where the things are coming from. Like if you take Nike, for example, with like slave work and things like that, people know, but they're still going to buy the next day Jordans.
Exactly.
So
how do we do this? We raise awareness and we tell people where their product's coming from, how this affects all of these different things, like animal suffering.
They know. People don't care.
Outside saying fair is murder.
Exactly.
Fair is murder, like holding up picture like
but
dead
they say
duck.
it's humane.
They know, but they
and
still
they're
go
claiming that it is humane, when in fact there are facts to
take
prove that it is not humane. And I'm just saying, you don't necessarily have to not buy the jacket or do whatever, but I'm saying consider another alternative than making these animals suffer. Thank you.
State are you from?
Florida.
Florida as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, everybody from Florida. So my name's Zach. I'm not here to talk to you today about veganism, not here to talk to you about Donald Trump, not here to talk to you about same-sex marriage. Frankly, I believe if two people want to be just as miserable as everyone else, be my guest. Doesn't affect me at all. Doesn't affect me at all. I'm here to talk to you today about police brutality for two reasons. It hits home with me because my uncle, he serves as police in the United States. And I believe that this pertains to everyone, as we all have to answer to the law. But in my opinion, I see that, police, especially in today's world, are given a bad rep. And it's the actions of the few that represent the whole. And that's very unfortunate because, what's that? Well, sure.
Now they're cops.
Either way, if one officer is, in a bad situation, obviously that's going to get publicity, obviously that's going to make big news, as opposed to the officers who do good things. Because, good things don't make big news. It's the bad news that everyone wants to hear about. My uncle was telling me a story one night when I was with him about how he was driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, as he's a state Jersey trooper, and he's driving along, he sees a car pulled over on the side of the road. There's no smoke, there's nothing, no lights, nothing flashing, just a man standing on the hood. So he pulls up slowly, calmly, gets out, stops next to him, and as the man's turning to see who it is who stopped next to him, he immediately freaks out, immediately starts saying, no, it's all fine, everything's good, everything's cool, I'm just on my way, I'm going right now. He obviously was very, in a state of stress. He was very stressed out. It could be seen that, he was maybe up to something, who knows. Either way, all my uncle did was say, hey, hold on, man, let me talk to you, I'm just here, I'm just pulling over, let me talk to you, let me know what's going on, fill me in. He says, no, it's good. As he's saying this, he's moving alongside the front of the hood, more towards the driver's side passenger, or driver's side door, and he's saying, no, I'm good. As he's walking along, as this is going on, my uncle hops out. All he does is walk over like this, hand right here. I think you guys know what's going on at this point. He just says, hey, man, back off, hold on, let's see what's going on here. Says, okay, all right, the guy backs away. My uncle goes up to the driver's side door, sees a machete, duct taped to the roof. Underneath the seat's a mini Uzi. Obviously then my uncle pulls the gun, he's holding it out like this, he says, turn around, put your hands behind your back, sits him down, cuffs him, takes all the weapons out of the cab, goes along the back side, opens up the trunk, whole, array of weapons, shotguns, assault rifles, AK-47s, the whole deal. This guy was doing a drop for a weapons load for the New Jersey Mafia. So obviously if my uncle didn't act the way he did, obviously if he didn't take the precautions that he did with the sternness and the forceful, hey man, back away, I'm talking to you, don't, get in your car, don't drive away, don't go up to your car, my uncle very well could have been dead. And that's my point today that I want to talk to you guys about. Because these officers, they have lives, they have worlds. My uncle, he's a father of 5, uncle to so many, me and my siblings, all my cousins. He's a husband, he's a brother to my father. You know, he shouldn't have to risk his whole world and his whole life just so that you feel safe while he's doing his job. Sure, of course, obviously there's cases where some officers, whether it pertains to, you know, Britain or of course America or not, some officers, they use that power where they shouldn't, and they use it too forcefully. And I do agree with you, if someone were to bring up the point that, you know, to become an officer, it needs to be more strict. However, you know, these officers shouldn't be blamed as a whole for the actions of the few.
I don't think people blame the actual specific officers for the actions of the few. I think they blame the system for putting them on paid leave and work.
Sure. No, I definitely agree, yeah.
The idea that everyone is criminalized on specific officers is completely incorrect. If you make a mistake within a workplace, you should not be placed on annual on paid administrative leave.
Paid administrative leave, sure.
You will not get that anywhere else. So the idea that you can shoot someone because you perceive your life's in danger, right, and then get paid off the leave, it's completely ridiculous.
Right, and I definitely agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, we can't hear what that question was. What's she asking you? When you initially put yourself forward,
content over everything from your community.
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen! COE! Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. I don't even listen to Sky YG. I just listen to COE! Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. I don't even listen to Sky YG. Man, just listen to COE! Man, just listen to COE! Man, just listen to COE! If you see me, it's COE! Content over everything, COE!
Man, not even know BBC. Man, not even know ITV. Not even listen to the MUM. They just listen to COE.